a good time. Put a smile on your face, yeah. KB Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your day and help you through the night. Bringing you good music. KB Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, KB Cam.
Lady Michelle Austin. I know what you've been through. Don't think that it's only you. Only you. Yeah. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. I know that you're in pain. You gotta love yourself enough to make the change. Yeah. Your atmosphere, and take away the power of your fear. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life, and come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace.
Hello, hello, Thriver Nation. How's everybody? Awesome. I wish y'all could see me dancing over here when my theme song is on. You can't tell me that I am not a Soul Train dancer when I'm in here. But I can't really dance, but in my mind I can. So listen, I am so excited to have all of you here with us tonight. We have an amazing show tonight. I am your host, Lady Michelle, and you are listening to Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle. I want to welcome everyone to our virtual safe zone. But before that, let's get some housekeeping together. We're going to take care of a little housekeeping. As you know, this platform is centered around the education of domestic violence, toxic relationships. We talk about the different forms of trauma here, self-love, finding your voice, and these are just naming, a little bit of the topics here because we cover everything, right? And just keep in mind that Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle is designed, or I should say was designed, with each of you in mind. When we went to the table, we were thinking about you, and you. And we wanted to make sure that we enlighten you, that we educate you, we inspire you, and we want to make sure that we're always empowering you, right? But I have to make this disclaimer before, we got to always do our disclaimer because somebody new might be checking us out tonight. All content of this podcast is intended for general information purposes only and is not intended or implied to be a substitute, you hear that, for professional mental health or trauma advice or therapy sessions. never, ever, 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 ever disregard or delay seeking professional help based upon any content that you hear right here on this podcast, all right? You feel like you're having an emergency situation, you got something going on, we want you to promptly call 911. All right? You know, we got to get that out. We got to make sure so that we all can be on the same page in here. All right. This month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, right? And so we wanted to bring different things to you this month that's centered around domestic abuse, but we wanted to make sure that we were trying to cover all areas as best that we could, and we wanted to be able to make sure that we're giving you some tips and some techniques to help you navigate through trauma. You know, it's often the trauma is that thing that's left behind after all of these horrendous horrific acts happen to us, right? Then we're stuck with this trauma thing. And so we wanted to be able to make sure that we give you some things to handle that. And so I have a powerhouse guest tonight. I'm so excited. Y'all just don't understand. And I have to give you like a little bit of background even before I give you some of her bio. I want to give you a little bit of background. And so it was very important for me, being a person who comes from a parent who did not know her family. My mom did not know her family. And so it was very important to me to try to search for her family. She's no longer with us, but I wanted to do that because I know that was something that was very important to her. And I'm an only child, so I wanted to, really kind of connect dots and find people. Well, as it turned out, my father's side has already been done, but I was able to, because, once you do your DNA and you get all up in the system, you just pop up with everybody, right? And so his side was already done. And so I've met some amazing people. Well, they had a family reunion this year, and I go to the family reunion. This is my first time going, and I meet these amazing people. And this young lady that I'm going to bring up, she got up and started talking about generational trauma and abuse. And I'm like, oh, that's what I do. Like, yes. I'm so connected already. And I was hanging on every single word that she was saying. And remember, she's coming from my father's side of the family, but I still had all of this trauma and connections that I needed to do with my mom's side of the family. And so, we just talked a little bit, and I said, I've got to get you on my show because we're, like, so connected here. So that was just a little background. So y'all get a chance to hear from my cousin tonight. I'm so excited about that. So I'm going to let y'all in on my family, right? Okay. So I know I'm just talking a lot, but I want to get all of this stuff out because once I turn the mic over to her, I'm going to turn it over, okay? So she was born in Memphis, Tennessee. She was raised in the southern town of Holly Springs, Mississippi. I hope that was Mississippi. Was that Missouri? Oh, she's going to correct me. By her maternal grandmother. She attended college. She's been in the Army. I'm going to go through this a little bit quick because I really want to get her on the mic. She was in the Army for 27 years. She is a retired CW4 and Bronze Star recipient with a BS in psychology and an MA in human resource management. She is the creator of the Family Tree Buff, LLC. She is the family historian. She's a speaker. She has been researching family roots in Mississippi, Georgia, and Arkansas, connecting the dots to enslaved ancestors from South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia for over 12 years, discovering trauma embedded in family trees. I'm telling you, I'm going to stop right there because we could talk all night with her, and we only got an hour, y'all. Welcome, my cousin, Eunice Buffington. Hey, girl.
Hello. Hi there.
How are you?
I am welcome. I'm fine. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you tonight.
Awesome. I really wanted to have you on here because oftentimes when we are talking about trauma, we don't really realize or we don't acknowledge that it goes further than us. this thing go way back on the tree, on the family tree, to fourth and fifth grandparents, right?
Absolutely, yes. And I discovered that in my search, in my just looking for my ancestors, I discovered trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So guess what? Open us up. Tell us about your story. Tell us, what happened. How'd you even get started? You got the mic, girl.
And so I'll say this. Good evening. I started my journey searching for the parents of my great-great-grandfather, Asbury Buffington. And what I found was I descended from enslaved Africans, Caribbean, Native Indians, Scottish, and French immigrants. And then I did a DNA test. And that DNA test uncovered the entwined heritage of a legacy that was of generational trauma. Not only my trauma, but generational trauma that was so powerful, it illuminated the practice of the Scottish and Irish traders who had been taking in indigenous, native, Caribbean, and mulatto enslaved young girls as concubines, impregnating them, marrying them, and saying they were married. And these were the connections that I had with over 1,000 DNA cousins. And this discovery turned my passion for ancestry and genealogy and connecting the dots to a call for action by revealing the hurt to heal. And this started my personal journey of revealing the trauma that's in our family trees. And I started with my own because I knew I had personal trauma in my own family.
Wow, that's amazing. That speaks volumes right there because, like you said, when you started doing the research, you found out that you had all these connections, right? And then there was some trauma there. So you said you started with your own trauma and your own tree. So what does that look like? Explain that to us.
And so for myself, my trauma was childhood sexual abuse. But what I learned, and when I was in the Army for 27 years, and I was would tell people about my background, I would always start from the age of 9. And that's what my grandmother got me. My maternal grandmother got me. I would never go back to the ages of where the abuse was existing. And so it took years for me to be able to own that truth of that abuse. And that was learning that in doing this research that my own mother had been abused as a child, that my own grandmother had been abused as a child. And so seeing that pattern of generational trauma, I was impelled to reveal my trauma so that my granddaughter, because now I have a son, and he have daughters, that my granddaughters will not go through the same kind of trauma. And so I call it revealing the hurt to heal. And so I learned how to go back, and I had to go back to my 5-year-old age because I was 5 years old when my trauma started, when I was started with sexual abuse. I had to go back to that 5-year-old child to understand and unravel it. Yeah. Wow.
That's so interesting. I hear you talking, and you're just telling so much of the same story that I have in terms of my mom was abused as a child, and there was abuse that I've experienced. I have a lot of childhood trauma that I experienced, and when I decided to do my genogram, which I don't know, I'll say what it is because people may not know what that is, but genograms are a visual representation of a person's family, relationships between members, and medical and mental health histories. It is a more in-depth than a family tree because it provides more extensive information about the family and each member. Well, when I decided to do mine, because I wanted to go deeper, I am a domestic violence advocate, and I wanted to go deeper than the domestic violence that I was experiencing because I knew that there was something more to what my mom was projecting on me. I wanted to know more about her and then trying to find her mom and so forth and so forth. Well, I got stuck. I couldn't find her mother. Like she wasn't coming up in the system in the Ancestry.com and I tested and all those things. And my mom, like I said, is deceased, so I wasn't able to test her. But the situation is that when you think about that, when you think about how far back that trauma goes, here's a woman who, for whatever reason, didn't want her daughter, and so there was no nurturing there. So then, of course, my mom has me. There's no nurturing. She doesn't know how to nurture. She's never been nurtured. And then I have my first daughter, and I don't really know how to nurture her correctly. And so then she has her first daughter, and it's going down generation to generation. And I was like, wait a minute, we got to stop this somewhere. And before we can say we're going to be generational curse breakers and all this other stuff, we have to acknowledge the trauma that's happened down through the tree line, right? So, that's why I started it as well. So it really, we kind of were like on the same page of why we even got started in this thing. So with that in mind, what did you discover, and how did it make you make changes in your life for how you were going to do your children, or your son, and how you want to raise him and the generations to come after?
Yes, absolutely. And even now, what I call that I'm still in the trauma, in that because it's ongoing. My son has been accused of having improprieties with his children, so that legacy is still being in it. It's still going on, and that's what made me be so advocate and to be the voice of change, so that my grandchildren don't go through it. And so, no matter who the person is, I want to be the voice of change, because I did not have a voice, a person to be my voice when I was 5 years old, and so that's what made me want to change. Owning my own story. So it took me years. I was well into my 50s to be able to even own the story of the abuse, because I always pushed it down. It's that trauma that I shoved down and did not want to think about, didn't want to bring it up. It happened. It was over. I survived it, and I don't want to think about it anymore. But that's living in the trauma. I want to go beyond living in the trauma to heal from it. And I had to heal from that trauma, I had to go back to that 5-year-old and understand what happened, and that it was not me. And in researching my family, learning that my mother had been abused. She got married her first marriage at 12 years old, and I asked her once, why did she run away and get married? And she said to me, I'd rather marry somebody that I chose than to have my mother's person be dealing with me. So that told me in her answer why she ran away. And so to be able to understand that and process that, and then to find out that my grandmother had experienced similar, I did not want that legacy of trauma to continue in our family. And so at some point, somebody has to be the change agent, and I wanted to be the change agent to say no more.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and that really is the segue into what I wanted to bring up here as you were talking. There are a few ways that you could take care of yourself during intergenerational trauma. And really that's what we're talking about here. This is intergenerational trauma. I know there are several names that people call it, but we like this one, and we're going to stick with this one right here. So I was listening to what you were saying, and this goes with what you were saying. So you have to believe that the internal chaos can end with you. You have to start to disrupt your repeated trauma response patterns. You see that the pattern was coming down from your grandma, your mom, then you, and so on, right? And it could have started even before your grandma. But we have to disrupt that. We have to design a future that moves you further away from the trauma, which is what you're doing now, which is what I'm doing now. We're trying to move away from the trauma. We're doing things and taking these steps to create another way. Take action against the injustices that maintain your trauma. That's a good one right there. Right? And I believe that's what we're doing. Yeah. We are bringing awareness. we're helping. You're doing the generational. You're going, doing the tree, your family history, and things like that. So you begin to open up to other people and allow them to find out what's going on and what has happened to their families prior to them. So that's good. We're taking those type of actions. And then the final one is imagine the deepest, purest love, and then deposit that love into yourself. I love that right there. So I'm all about loving yourself. So,
yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Yes, that's a good one.
Yes. We got to love ourselves, but we can't do it until we figure out this trauma thing, now, and I have another quote that I'm going to read after this, too, because I really love quotes. Quotes, for me, really speak volumes. They kind of put things into the perspective of the way that I feel, and I can't quite get the words like that. So I love to find different quotes. But one of the things before I get to another quote, I wanted to say, when trauma is going to be with us. It doesn't go away. It's really how we handle it and how we, again, like this said, moving away from it, getting positive things in our lives. And I love this last part where it says, find that love, the purest of love, and really dive into that thing. Just really deposit ourselves into it. And this will help us in the long run. So, what are some of the things that you would suggest to my listeners, some of the tips, some of the things that they can do, when they experience this intergenerational trauma? They find out about this trauma right now. They discovered all this happened to great-great-great-great-grandma, and it's been going down the line. That's what we're supposed to do now.
One of the things I encourage each and every person to do is look within your family tree and be the change agent. Even as the mentor or the mentee. And that's the person that provides that emotional support, that instrumental support. The emotional support is that empathy, that trust. That instrumental support is that concrete assistance. I'll help you. I'll be there for you. That informational support, providing that if I need to find the number to help you, you get to some help. Being that for them. And so I encourage each and every person to look within yourself and be that change agent, whether it's the person that's the mentor in the family or the mentee in the family. Yeah,
that's good. That's good information, because they're going to need someone who can help them process this new information that they've found out.
Right.
They need someone who can, help them through that, because it's not easy when you find out about this trauma that's been going down your tree line, your family bloodline. It's not easy. Healing is hard. Going through any healing process, man, oh man, you be curled up in the corner sometimes, ready to suck your thumb. Sometimes you do suck your thumb. Okay, that's right. Don't leave me out there, cuz I know I was sucking my thumb in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, and I want to. So the healing process is a hard process to even process, and so we need somebody in our corner in that healing process. But the healing only starts when we can acknowledge that there was something to be healed from.
Yes, acknowledging that. I like that, because a lot of times in families down through the years, our families have brushed things under the rug. They stopped talking about it. It's a hush-hush, and especially because, back in the day, they wouldn't talk around children. So a lot of times we didn't know things that went on, right? And so we became these adults, and we didn't know what was going on. Why did grandma used to act like that? Why did pop-up used to act like that? And, we didn't know.
Right.
Until we started. Go ahead.
I will say this, that in the African American community, and it's a part of, it's really transcended from slavery, where we had to hide our feelings, our emotions, and had to hide all of that. We learned even in our families to hide that those feelings and those emotions, and that transcended down where in my family, you didn't listen to grown people talk. As the children weren't allowed to repeat what grown people said. you stay in your place. You don't talk about what goes inside this household. And so there was a lot of secrecy, a lot of things that were shrouded in mystery within the family.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you brought that up and said about the African American community, because intergenerational trauma in the African American community has gone untreated for so long that, yes, they have, we got so much PTSD in our families and other, trauma-related disorders, and, a lot of the people in that community, and we can speak for that because we are a part of that community, right? So a lot of times they don't want to go to therapy. That's been downplayed, that they don't trust the therapist. It's not really offered in our communities a lot. And so a lot of things go untreated. It's looked at as weakness, right? I'm not going to no therapist. But we need that. We need to talk to these people. We need to find someone who is a therapist that can help with that, though. Now, every therapist can help with the intergenerational trauma and treating trauma at all. So you definitely need to do that. So,
and something that as a counselor myself, previous counselor, it's something that I advocate, and it was instrumental with me in owning my own truth, was going to counseling and being able to unravel some of the trauma that was within the family, within my own family. The family tree and the generational issues came later, but just understanding my own trauma, that required I was better able to understand that trauma and deal with that trauma by going through counseling. I used journaling, writing, but counseling was one of the ways that helped me to be able to process and understand that generational trauma.
Right. That's good that you said that. I was doing some research, and I found that there was a article that said 13%. African Americans are 13% less likely to seek mental health treatment compared to the national average. And that's just not good, because we have so many broken families, so much is going on, but we've been taught, like you said, to deal with it in silence. We've been taught to, that this is the norm. But we don't want to normalize that anymore. We want to normalize going to get help.
Yes.
We want to normalize calling that thing out.
Absolutely. Normalizing, being able to reveal that, be able to figure it out, to normalizing the freedom of calling it out and being free from that pain.
Absolutely. I love it. And we need to discuss it more frequently in the families. We need to talk about this. I know one of the things was when I was finding out so many things about my family tree, I was talking to my children about it. And my children are grown now, but they didn't want to hear about that. Mom, all you're doing is out here, you're collecting cousins, and you're acting crazy, and you're doing all kinds of stuff. And, we are each other's family. We don't want nobody new. But, no, you need to find out, first of all, where you come from, who you're related to, and what's going on, because there are so many things in our families that we need to understand. It could be something as simple, and this is trauma, but it could be the women in your family have a history of ovarian cancer or cervical cancer or something like that, right? That's very traumatic. Women were having to get hysterectomies and all kinds of things, and at young ages. And if you don't know that 5 lines up, that's in your family tree, you won't understand why this is happening to you, because nobody's been talking about it.
That's very true, yes.
And so we have to normalize talking about this thing. Let's have these conversations. Instead of, we have all this technology out here now, right? So when everybody gets together for holidays or let's have some family get-togethers or whatever, like let's talk about some stuff. We have to start bringing things up so that these things will go to the next generation, because now we have generations coming behind us, and we want them to be generational curse breakers, right? We want them to break these curses off of this trauma that has been going on. They can do that. They can take this and turn this into generational wisdom, but not if we're not having the conversation with them, not if we're not helping them process what's going on. Okay, listen, this was in our bloodline. This is something that was going on, but we're going to stop this thing right here. We're going to stop teen pregnancies in our bloodline. If for 6 generations it's been teen pregnancies, okay, now listen here, sugar. You're not going to get pregnant as a teen, but we're going to educate her. We're not going to just come at her and tell her no, 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 but we're going to give education to the boys and the girls, right? So things like that. We have to talk about it, and we have to you can't just keep saying, oh, I'm a generational curse breaker. I know I see that in church, and I see people running around and shouting and carrying on. Yes, I'm going to break these generational curses, but then they leave it right there. It stops with them. Nobody else knows what's going on. So that would be my tip and my technique to everybody. Start having that conversation.
Exactly. To make the world a better place by revealing and having that conversation. Yes.
And as you can see, I could just talk and talk and talk. So, you better get in there when you can get in there, girl. But this is such a passionate conversation, and such a much-needed conversation in our communities. And I think that if we really start understanding what some of the lifelong effects can be from intergenerational trauma, right? So, okay, we know that there can be so much anxiety and shame and depression. There can be some substance abuse, but again, all of those things can be stuff that has been, coming down the line. It could be the reason why our parents, maybe that's the only coping mechanisms that they knew of. But then when you go back and you look at great-grandpa used to drink moonshine, and then he used to come home and be drunk and drink it, and then, then daddy used to drink it, and now I married somebody that drink it because I'm connected to that. I'm trauma bonding with that. That's a whole nother show right there, the trauma bonding. But we, those things coming down that line, coming down that genogram, it's all there. It's all there.
Right.
And
you talked a little bit about the genogram, and so I want to talk about that a little bit more about that. I was in a master's program, and we had to do a family genogram. That was an eye-opening experience, because it allowed me to connect to, in that genogram, you not only map out your family lineage, you map out their medical history, their mental health history, connections, whether they were disconnected connections, whether it was early childhood bearing, they married early. You map all those kind of things out, and once you start to make those connections, it's an amazing visual connection once you start to make those connections within your family. They're just different from just building your family tree, but understanding what was going on in the family. And so one thing I say in my my talks is that oftentimes we don't think about the trauma our parents went through before they became our parents. And so we only think about our parents as in, our mother and our father, but we don't often think about their life and the life, whatever trauma they may have experienced before they became our parents. And so unconsciously, oftentimes they pass that trauma on to us, even in an unconscious manner, because we never knew the trauma they went through as children. And I found that to be so not only in my family, in other families as well, as I research things that oftentimes when I would do research for people and it would provide information about their parents, they would be surprised in knowing, I didn't know my grandmother went through that. I didn't know my mother went through that. Wow, I never knew that that grandmother had a first marriage before grandpapa that we knew. Yeah, and so it would just be so many things that family just did not know about grandmother, because all they knew was grandma, but they never knew about her first marriage, whatever happened in that marriage, just different things in that nature.
Absolutely. I'm glad you broke that down, and that is something that I think people really should do, because, like you said, it's much more deeper and much more extensive than a regular family tree. You do need to find out more. You need to find out, medical histories. You need to find out, yes, maybe grandma, that marriage that she had before, the loving grandfather that you grew up to know, maybe that first marriage was an abusive one and she had to leave. She might have been running for her life, and then she, met this wonderful person. Well, you would know that. So great information that they need. I know that was one of the reasons when I did do mine, and one of the things I found out, I didn't understand why my mom would always make me sleep in her room, right? I had my own room. I'm an only child. Beautiful room. It had the canopy bed in it, and, just a beautiful little girl's room, right? And my own stereo system, all of that. And I could play in that room all day long, no problems. But when the night fell, she would make me come in the room with her, and I couldn't understand. I don't want to sleep in here with you. I want to sleep in my room. But I didn't know until a few years ago, because I'm just finding out all this stuff maybe 2015 or something like that, that she had been molested, and she, as a child, and she went through foster care system. And when she would be in these different foster homes, and let me just stop and pause for 1 second. If there's anyone who gets triggered by anything that we say here, please, I admonish you to do a check-in, and you can remove yourself from the podcast for a moment and come back, because I don't want anyone to be triggered by some of the things that we talk about. Abuse is a very a hard subject, and it's it's just not pretty, and so I wouldn't want to trigger anyone. So I want to just take that moment to let you know. Please take care of yourself, check in with yourself, and if it's something that becomes too much for you, you can always come back and listen to us later on. I would prefer that you get yourself, make sure you're okay. So I was, in finishing the story, she, these men would expose themselves to her at her doorway, right? And so in her mind, I'm finding out all this stuff later on, in her mind, she's thinking, if I can bring my daughter in here, if she's in this room with me, I can protect her. I can't protect her outside that doorway, but I can protect her in here because it's nighttime. But that was her mindset. But instead of ever explaining this to me, she just went into protection mode and went into survivor mode. And so, again, here is something that would come down the generational tree of the type of abuse and how the response was. But I didn't know that if I didn't do my genogram and I didn't, ask questions of different people and things like that to find out this information. So it's very, very, very important to do this genogram. So I wanted to tell this story. I hope and pray that I did not trigger anyone, and I have much love for you. But we got to talk about the ugliness of abuse, because abuse is not pretty, and it does not care about trying to tippy-toe around us. So we have to bring these things to the forefront. So, yes, just wanted to get that out there. All right, and T-Ray, anything else that you have that you want to share with us?
That was an awesome story to tell that, and just so instrumental in part of understanding our parents, our grandparents, and what I do in the genealogy tree is understanding how that trauma trickled down. And so even all the way back to our Native American ancestors, when they were part of the Pillatiers. And so some of them who were enslaved with the Indians, and if they were married to a black person, they had to denounce their Native American heritage and say that they were black. If they were married to a white person, they had to denounce their Native American and say that they were white. And so that trauma in losing is similar to the trauma that African Americans face in losing their identity and slavery. And so it's a trickle down effect, and in losing part of your identity. And as a researcher, for me, going back and finding and understanding how that could be so traumatic. Even in my own family, my mother is dark skinned. And she has one sister. Her sister is light skinned. Light skin, curly hair. My mother dark skin and Afro-eccentric features. And it was very evident my grandmother made differences in them. And so that was a part of my mother's trauma, in that she felt that she was not the loved one. She didn't feel that love, and that was part of her trauma. And so even if things as simple as that, where we put colorism and racism in our own family lines, and it becomes traumatizing.
Wow. That's very interesting, and it's happening so often. So I'm glad that you did bring that up. Anyone who is listening to that, take note of these things, of what we're talking about. Take note of it in your family. Where is somewhere where you can make these changes? You can, by acknowledging these things have been happening in your family, and they still are happening to your family. What is it that you can do to make sure that we protect the future generations from doing this, where we break this off, that we do cut this generational trauma? And I don't even want to use the word curse, because I'm not using that right now. We are using the generational trauma. Where is it that we can help and help our youth, our young generation, our next generation fix these problems? What can we do? So that's what we need to be working on. That needs to be our next steps of, all right, let's figure this thing out. Let's work through this and make it happen, right?
Right, yes.
And so some of the things that I would say is we definitely got to, and we've been talking about this all night, is acknowledging it. Okay, so let's acknowledge, let's make some conscious changes. Let's accept that we can't change everything, right? We can't. We don't want to mess ourselves up and get all flustered. You can't change everything. But certain circumstances, you can begin to transform your life. You now have that power. We didn't have there were things that our ancestors went through. We can't change that, right? It happened. They didn't have no control over it. We darn sure don't have any control of it. But we have the power to control what happens now, transforming lives now.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. That would be a powerful thing that we put into practice. And one of the ways that we're doing it, you do it all the time, I do it all the time, is we go around and we talk about this. We go around and we open up people's minds to this topic right here, And this is why I tell everyone domestic violence and domestic abuse is so much larger than physical abuse. I just want people to get out of that. And so many other things that go under that umbrella. And this is one of the things under that umbrella, intergenerational trauma.
Right.
So let's continue to do what we do. Let's continue to bring that information to others. One of the other things that I wanted to say, I know we talked about the different things that have happened that can cause intergenerational trauma. But another example of it is parental incarceration. Some people, their parents have been locked up for so long, and they could deal with, or divorce. That's another part. It's that loss,
Exactly. Yeah. Parental alienation, incarceration, divorce. It's a form of trauma to a child. And so one of the things that I like to identify are ways of surviving different types of trauma, whether it's generational trauma, whether it's domestic violence, ways of surviving. First, number one is to spot. And how do we identify the signs of trauma? And whether it's abuse, poverty, a traumatic event, substance abuse, or violence, we often wear the signs of trauma in our body. Either we stop talking, we stop going around the people that we normally go around, we stop doing the things that we normally do. The symptoms, the physical symptoms, the bruises, the physical signs. And so normally the first signs of any kind of trauma is shown in our body, and we exhibit those signs in our body. So as family members, as our caretakers, our friends, being able to recognize and identify the signs that a person is experiencing some kind of trauma. The other one is being able to speak about it, being able to reveal that you are going through some kind of trauma. And oftentimes we hold that inside. People who are ongoing and ingoing trauma hold it inside. But one of the things is being able to reveal the hurt to heal. The other one is soothe. How do we soothe from that? And that's how do we release the pain and the process? That begins the processing. And we begin to soothe. It's the beginning of the processing, healing. The other one is how do we stop? And that's being the change agent, to say, no more. Being the voice or the voiceless child, being the protector, being the person that says no more. And so I use those as my four ways of surviving generational trauma, of any type of trauma, is to first spot it, speak about it, soothe from it, whether it's through counseling, therapy, and stop. That means being the change agent, to say no more.
I love it. Ooh, that's a good one. I love all of them, and I'm going to make sure that I keep those in the forefront of what I'm doing and and always keep them in front of me so I can make sure that I'm doing each one of them, because they are truly going to be the way that I help my future generations that's coming behind me. I don't want them to be going through the same stuff that I was going through. So I'm definitely going to. I didn't hear you.
Exactly. I was agreeing with you. Yes, exactly. We don't want our family members to go through the same kind of trauma. And so, yes, I was agreeing with
you. Yes. Because you know what? Sometimes that old stinking devil, he can sit around and wait for generations to come. And he'd be like, you know what? All right, I'm going to chill. I'm not going to mess with this generation right here. But, I got another one coming up behind them. And I'm going to get that one right there. And that's why I say let's have those conversations. I have more conversations with my granddaughter. She's 16 now. I have more conversations with her than I ever had with my children when they were 16, because I realized that I've got to open up. I've got to have these. They're going through way more things at 16 than I ever did. First of all, we didn't have technology when we were 16. So I didn't have to go through the stuff that they go through with social media and the phones and all of that. However, I have to have these conversations with her, because abusers are abusers. They don't ever change up. They might have different things that they're using now, but they don't change up. So I got to make sure that she knows what to look for in a narcissist. I got to make sure she knows what to look for in an abuser, someone who's preying on her, P-R-E-Y, preying on her. I got to make sure she knows the difference. So got to have those conversations, right? These were conversations that were never had with me, and I have to be honest, I did not have the conversations with my daughters. And so if I want to say that I don't want my grandchildren to go through this, I gotta have it. I gotta talk to her. We gotta be one-on-one. And sometimes they're gonna say stuff that you don't want to hear because these young people are doing some stuff out here. They doing way more than we did. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what's that called? Well, what's that? Huh? What that word mean? Ooh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, let me go. I need to go get me another Pepsi or another cup of coffee or something dealing with this. But if we don't open up, and how will they ever be the changers that you're talking about? How will they ever be if we don't do the things that you have said to us? So give us those 4 one more time.
And so I'll give those 4 again. It's spot. Stop. Soothe. And survive.
All right, there we go. I love it. I love it. As always, this show goes so quickly, I tell you. We will definitely have to bring you back because there's so much that you could talk about when you begin to talk about intergenerational trauma, and so many things that we can cover. We could probably be here for hours just having a candid conversation, or what I like to call a courageous conversation about the things that have to deal with this. I know before we get out of here, I definitely want to say to my Thriver Nation that some of the effects of generational trauma can be sleep disturbances, substance abuse disorders, numbing and detachment, respiratory symptoms, dermatological symptoms, hyperarousal, intrusive thoughts and memories, flashbacks, self-harm, and disassociation. That's just some of the things. But I wanted to make sure that I say that before we go, that those are some of the effects, and that's why it's really important to acknowledge generational trauma and to want to change for our next generation and future generations, not just the next one that's coming behind us. Well, our children are behind us, but not the grandchildren, but the great-grands and the great-great-grands and all in all. We want to be able to be changers for them, right?
Absolutely,
so,
yes.
Yes. So I'm so happy that we were able to have you on tonight. Are there any final thoughts that you would like to give the Thriver Nation?
I'd like to say, just in closing, and say to your audience that pain travels through the family line until someone is ready to heal. It is them in themselves. And every single person that we meet is either repeating the cycle of generational trauma or carrying the burden of breaking the cycle of generational trauma while trying to heal. And so by going through the healing process, you no longer pass that generational energy onto the next generation. And so I empower each and every person to seek out to heal in love, in faith, and in honesty. And I leave you with love.
Oh, and I feel that love. Yes, thank you so much. Please tell everyone how they can stay connected to you, social media, how they can get with you if they want to have you come speak on any of their shows or any of their conferences. Give them all your information.
Absolutely. I have a website. My website is familytreebuff.com. My email is familytreebuff5@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. And just reach out on any of those networks at familytreebuff.com.
Awesome. Again, I do appreciate you coming here tonight, sharing some of your story with us, sharing why you even got into intergenerational trauma, searching it rather, and becoming a change agent for those who have experienced it and who are going to experience it, because we won't be able to change it for everyone, but we do our best to change for as many as we can. But I want to really thank you for that. So happy to be a part of your family, or have you as a part of my family. So excited about that.
Yes, and thank you for having me on the show.
You are so welcome.
I am excited to be a part of your healing process, and you to be a part of my healing process, not only as family, but as a part of our healing journey. And I'm excited to be a part of that healing journey with you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, thank you. And we need each other, and we can do this, and that's really what that healing is about. It's about having that tribe and, just helping one another through that journey, through that process, because, again, as we have said, it's not an easy one, but it can happen. So one of the things I want to leave us with, a couple of things I want to leave us with. There was a quote that I found here from Catherine, I believe it's Woodwiss. Y'all know I'm not good with these names. But anyway, says, trauma permanently changes us. This is the big scary truth about trauma. There is no such thing as getting over it. The 5 stages of grief model marks universal stages in learning to accept loss. But the reality is, in fact, much bigger. A major life disruption leaves a new normal in its wake. There is no back to the old me. You are different now. Full stop. This is not a wholly negative thing. Healing from trauma can also mean finding new strength and new joy. The goal of healing is not a papering over of the changes in an effort to preserve or present things as normal. It is to acknowledge and wear your new life, warts, wisdom, and all, with courage. That thing hit me, so I was like, okay, this is this is speaking volumes to me. So I wanted to make sure that I leave everyone with that quote. And so as we get out of here, as we get ready to get out of here, because we are at the end and at the top of, getting ready to be at the top of the hour. Of course, I want to thank you all, thank all my Thrivers. You guys always show up, always make it a wonderful show. We want to make sure that we thank our amazing producer, Dr. Kimmy Count. We love her so much, and we are always happy that she helps us process through having a great show. Please remember the Elation family. We are part of that Elation family. Even though we are Speak Your Piece with Lady Michelle, we are a part of the Elation family, and we are happy to be a part of that family. And so, please remember to, you can find us on all of the outlets, Spotify, iTunes, all of those things. You look under Elation Radio, you will be able to find us. So make sure you support. And so our final quote for tonight, of course, we always say be kind to one another, but especially in what we've talked about tonight, I want to say, and I always want to go a step further and say be kind to yourself. And don't ever forget that you are no longer a victim. You are more than a survivor. You are a thriver. You're a thriver. And when you love yourself, you are healed. And when you are healed, you are loved. I'll check you all out next week. We have a great show. We're going to end domestic violence with something real special for y'all. Domestic Violence Awareness Month, rather, with something really special for y'all. And I love you all. Thank you to our guests. Thank you, Eunice, for coming. I love you. Thank you. You're welcome. And guess what? We're out of here. Let's go home. Have a great night, everybody.
Pick Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Lady Michelle, speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace.